Well, hello there. Good morning and welcome to my little arty and sometimes crafty corner of the internet. It's lovely to have you back again if you're returning. If you're new, it's very pleasant to have you here again. And I do hope that you enjoy what you see and that if you do, consider giving me a thumbs up for the video and possibly even subscribe to the channel. I'm definitely release videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Wednesday is the day of the week I draw the colouring template for Template Thursday for the Angela Porter's Colouring Book Fans Facebook group. That's what I'm best known for, my adult colouring books. And Saturday is the day I have a look back over my week in art, really, is to have a look back at Sketchbook Saturday. In between, it depends what's going on, and this week it's been a weird week. And I might tell you about that as we go through this. I think this couple of pages, because I can never remember where I got to last week, but we'll have a look through. And oddly, this week, just about all my art, or all the art I've done, has actually been in sketchbooks, or fixed into sketchbooks. It's something I think I'm going to continue doing as I go onwards in the future, unless it's a piece of art that I want to sell, which I've never managed yet. Well, I have sold pieces of art, but I've never managed to say, yeah, I'm going to pop this up on the Etsy shop or advertise this as being for sale. Lack of confidence, I think. But I know I was here around here this time last week where I've been doing Sketchtember, and I have done Sketchtember for every single day of the week, every day of September. And I decided that I was a bit fed up with herbs and spices because they were getting to feel a bit samey to me. So I thought I'd do some seed pods. So I drew one day, I just drew loads of them, and then I thought, right, Sketchtember each day it's going to be adding colour. And some I've completed, others I've gone like this to try different colour combinations out. And I've gone, not quite sure what I'm doing here. But nonetheless, it's been an interesting journey, especially as this is new paper to me. It's Arteza marker paper, and there's lots of different kinds of marker paper available, or brands, and they're all similar but they're all different, and some I like more than others. And here's some more drawings. I started adding colour there. I thought I'd try marker paper. Well, let's try the Ecoline brush pens. They don't work because they're not it's designed for alcohol markers, but there are days when I just don't think clearly, and this week has been one of those weeks. I still haven't added colour to all of these, but the drawings are here should I choose to or not. They're the ones from Sketchtember, and I'm sure I showed these last week. I've also done a fair number of ink drawings in my sketchbook, just because I can, because I find it calms and de-stresses me, and I've had a stressful week. If you have seen any of my social, my blog or yesterday's video, I said that I've had a lot of stress, organised appointments, sorting things out, and it's all to do with healthcare. My health is fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not ill. It's just I have a couple of underlying health conditions that need to be checked up on a regular basis, and because of the events of the past year or so, I haven't had a checkup for 2 years. And so it's scary for me being around people because I live alone and I don't go out much. My social anxiety has increased since we've been locked down. I'm perfectly happy at home. I have no anxiety in the house. It's as soon as I step outside the door, it can kick in, especially if I'm having to interact with people or go where there are people. It's not because of the events of the past year. It's something I've always suffered with, as long as I can remember as a child. And in some ways, the effects of COVID, the lockdown and everything has given me a chance to understand what life can be like without anxiety and without intense moments of stress. And I rather like that. So I've got to find the balance between spending time with people physically at some point and looking after my stress levels as well. But that's for me to figure out. And it's just a little, explanation of perhaps why this week well, it's not why, this is exactly why this week there has not been so many videos, is because I've often been stressed to high heaven for various reasons, and my focus and my attention just go, and it's really hard for me to speak or to do anything. And there have been times after phone calls and so on, where all I've been able to do is sit and stare, and then I've become so tired as the stress hormones leach away. I've had to sleep, and I have slept so much this week in short bursts. My overnight sleep hasn't been too good. But this one started with this strange motif here and grew outwards, and I wasn't really sure about it. But like so often with my artwork, I leave it for a few days or a couple of days, come back to it and think, actually, that's okay, that's kind of worked out. Whether I add colour to it, I don't know, but it's there. A couple of days of Sketchtember. If we go to Sketchtember now, because I'll just have a look. Yeah, a couple of pages in this sketchbook, and then I've got a couple in the others. I think I showed you day 11 with the seed pods. I could be wrong, mind you, but they're all getting a bit muddled up here. So day 11 was a week ago, so you would have seen those. This is last Sunday's, where I drew some seed pods, which they were gorgeous. They're shaped like hearts, and even the fruit inside, or the nut inside, is heart shaped. And so I sketched them out in pen and added colour with alcohol markers, and then I used the design. I drew the seeds from different angles, and you tried different colours out, and with or without the inner in. And then I took a simplified version to create repeating patterns from, Zentangle style, I suppose. Sorry, there was something on the page, I was brushing it off. And I quite like these little motifs. Here's, if in Zentangle terms, here's the fragment that you can use to repeat, and I've tried it in a couple of different ways. I've got no idea, by the way, if anybody's created a pattern like this before. I didn't go looking and checking. It's just something that happened and that I enjoyed doing. This is day 16, which was 2 days ago. These are actually dried ochra lady's fingers, and I do love ochra curry. I don't have it often, but when I do, I really enjoy it. And they've got really interesting stripes on them. They're very dark and very light, alternating around, and an interesting shape, which I had trouble drawing because they're not quite rectangular like this. They taper in a bit at the end, and then they've got a narrower end on them, but they're okay. And here I've added some colour. The pink and the colour to the ochre are actually Ecoline watercolour ink with a water brush. And yeah, I crumpled the page because I did use some pencil to sketch the basic shape out, because I was having trouble figuring it out directly in pen and getting the stripes right to my liking. But just for a change, I wanted to use those. So this is day 13, and underneath is day 14, and this is a Zentangle style drawing I did at about the same time. Again, seed pods here. These ones are imaginary, but are based on ones you see. So you wouldn't find these in nature, but you would find ones that are very similar. And the same here. They are seed pods, even though they look a bit like sea urchins now. But there's an overlap between shapes and forms in nature anyway. And but these ones, I added colour here with yeah, the Arteza Everblends, and shading more than anything. And then the colour I added, what did I use that for? Oh, the Ecoline brush pens, that's right. And on this one as well, I used Ecoline brush pens to add colour to these, and I really wasn't happy with what happened, but I had fun, and the colours were interesting, should we say. This Zentangle style drawing I did on a piece of toned paper by Fabriano, and it's just, the paper is a delight to draw on. I love coloured paper, to draw on, which is why I colour the pages in my sketchbook with distress inks. That's going to be a constant theme, I think, unless I need plain backgrounds, which I sometimes do. But for my own personal work, colouring the background works for me. And the only thing, I made mistakes here where I messed up the repeating pattern, and I wish I'd left the messed up bits in because they wouldn't have been as noticeable. But with this, I just wanted to play more than anything with shadow and highlight, and I think I've done an okay job. I haven't used a gel pen or anything apart from these bits down here, which are souffles, to really bring out highlights, which I certainly could do, but I'm really quite happy with that. And then the next page, or pages, are some more Zentangle style drawings, again playing with shadow and highlights. And these papers, they're actually a page from, I took a page out my sketchbook and cut it into these squares. I think are 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. I used a little tool like this, which is called a corner rounder. You put your paper in there, press it down, and it rounds the corners. They're a bit fiddly to use and to get perfect round corners, I found, but they work well enough. And drawn in ink, and I've added colour, or the background. It was distress ink coloured, but it was a piece I'd stenciled patterns over, and you can see these patterns peeking out in places. And if you look closely, you can even see them running through the design itself. It's not so easy to see because to colour this I used the Carbothello chalk pastels and some graphite pencil, and they're a bit opaque. They do tend to block out that background pattern, but they do add this lovely soft kind of colour, and it's nice to work in a kind of monochrome kind of way. So I didn't like the graphite because it makes everything look mucky. I just don't like it particularly. And it'd be okay if I was just working in black and white, but on this lovely colour, this lovely coloured background here, these soft peaches and pinks and so on, it just ended up looking mucky. And I tried using white chalk or to add highlights, but I just couldn't get them as bright as I wanted, so I did use a white souffle pen, which worked really nicely and does bring highlights out. The other page here is, again, two more. This one's on that Fabriano toned paper in sage, I think it is. I could be wrong. It's a green colour. There's only one that's green. I think they have 4 colours. Is it blue? Oh no, yeah, blue, a grey, a putty colour, and green. And they're lovely. Say they're lovely to draw on. They've got some nice tooth, and they work well with coloured pencils because of that toothiness. So this one here, I used the Derwent Colour Soft pencils to add depth and highlights, and that worked much nicer. But I think I chose some colours that were a bit too dark, perhaps. But it is what it is, and the white Colour Soft pencil works a lot better for highlights, kind of, but not the best. So to add those really blasts of bright white, it was the white souffle pen. This one I started, and I was going to do more with, but I realised I quite liked it as it was, with braids interwoven with different patterns on. And you can see the background texture here, it's all dotty. And with this I just use the Carbothello pastel pencils and the white souffle pen to add shadow and highlight and colour, and that works. If I turn back to the other one, can't put them side by side because I didn't mount them on the same page, did I? Nope. But you can perhaps see the difference. I don't know whether you can, how mucky that grey is. And this is one of the pages, the first page in the sketchbook there. I've added that background texture, and I did that because all of these pages, the last pages in this sketchbook, I coloured with distress inks and a piece of cut and dry foam, and just blended it over in no particular pattern, just trying to keep the colours simple because I just wanted them as a background. But I know I watched a couple of card making videos last week, and I think they were from Lavinia Stamps, and they were using stencils for backgrounds, and I thought, oh, I've got stencils somewhere. So I dug them out and I chose ones that would act nicely, had quite a small pattern in them that would act nicely as a soft background and something interesting to draw over, except here I've used it to mount little drawings on. I have no doubt in my mind that smaller drawings are going to appear in these spaces, because I will fill this up and on the backs of pages like this, because I'm not going to draw on that. I can't disguise that in any other way other than covering it with paper. So that's something I'm going to do in the future. Okie dokes, let me have a sneaky peek here at what's next. Oh yeah, so yesterday for Sketchtember I decided to do buttons, lots of buttons. I drew lots and lots and lots of funky buttons and some very bad hand lettering. I enjoyed this so much. It was just something that was free and easy to do. I didn't draw from observation, I just drew from memory and imagination and created buttons, some of which would never work as a button. Well, it would. I've put, you know, the holes for thread down here, but you really need them up the middle because that crown would just flop over as a button. But I just thought I'd give it a go. This spool of thread is quite cute in its way. You can get all different kinds of patterns for them. I can remember seeing buttons in haberdashers shops when I've been in the past, you know, buying yarn and seeing all the different shapes and sizes and so on. And I also have very fond memories of like people used to do years ago. I don't know if they still do, but my mother had this huge Quality Street tin, and Quality Street was a sweets over here, candies in the UK, chocolates, and that they're sort of like traditionally had at Christmas, and you wouldn't see them except for Christmas and perhaps Easter at one time. Now you can get boxes of them all year round, but the tins used to be really big, and this one was really deep, and it was full of buttons that she'd taken off old clothes over the years that my grandmother had done, because my grandmother's collection was added. And they were absolutely beautiful to sort through and to play with as a child, because I can remember being given them as a toy to play with when I was very little. And the colours and the shapes, and some of them were almost encrusted with like gems or jewels, and they sparkled and glittered in the light. And you know, the different patterns that you had on them and the things you could do with them. You could sort them out into like colours or like sizes, or make patterns and shapes and images with them and so on. Once allowed to use them, they all had to go back in there. And I don't know if my mother still got that tin. I haven't got a clue. But they certainly were fun to play with. And some of them were really, really old, because my grandmother was was nearly 90 years old when she passed away in 1979. And she was born in the 1800s, in the Victorian era, where there was no television, no electricity, that gas lights were in houses that were very posh, and you know, it was candlelight and no central heating, just, you know, open fires. And when she was little, there were no cars. It was all horse-drawn carriages and steam trains and things like that. And she saw so much change in her life, but I do wish that I'd been a bit older to be able to talk to her about such things. But I was still, you know, I was a teenager, and, you know, like everything, you think nobody's going to ever die, and you just never have that opportunity, perhaps, or never think about having those conversations. But I know enough about her to know that she was quite a remarkable woman as well in her time. And I think some of it's rubbed off on me in some ways, but, you know, in other ways perhaps not. So buttons were fun to do. I did some as letters and, you know, flowers and leaves and some heart shapes and some that are just funky, sort of like Entangled, Zentangle. And what I love here is that there are in places this background pattern peeks through, especially where I've used water to spread the Ecoline ink out, because that's what I used for this. I decided I'd use the Ecoline brush pens rather than alcohol markers, because there's a lot of teeny tiny places in these, and I also needed much brighter colours than I have in my sets of markers. But I had a lot of fun playing with colour. My favourites are these over here, because they remind me so much of colours that I've seen in art by Roger Dean, who did a lot of covers for the band, album covers for the band Yes, and one of my favourite artists. I have many, but he's one of them in that kind of genre, along with Rodney Matthews, who also, his work I fell in love with through seeing it on album covers back in the 70s, 80s, and absolutely beautiful, beautiful work, and not something that I think I could ever replicate. They used airbrushes. I mean, you can do that now with digital art quite easily, but it's, you know, not my style. But this was really, really an interesting experience for me, or project for me, because quite soon in I thought, I want this to be fun and whimsical, something that will make me smile, something that's bright and colourful. I don't necessarily need these to be realistic with dimension or anything else. It's just pattern and colour. So let me approach colour like perhaps an illustrator would, where it's not realistic, but it gives you, it adds to the design. It helps to separate elements out, or, you know, bring feature. I'm not explaining myself well, and that's exactly what I did here. I did get fussier and funkier with colours up here. This one, I just absolutely love it. That blue practically glows against the orange and red. And obviously I've got plenty more to colour in, so I can keep those for another day when I need a bit of smiles and a bit of pick me up, and, you know, a chance just to lose myself in colour. So that was day 17, and day 17 was yesterday, but day 16 was also Thursday. And of course on Thursday it was Template Thursday again, and this week I created a Doodle World style colouring page, colouring template for the Angela Porter's colouring book fans, because I needed whimsy and cuteness, because I was highly stressed Wednesday and Thursday morning when I drew this. So I drew this Wednesday, and Thursday morning I started to add colour to this. I printed it out and I started using alcohol markers, and that was a big mistake for me, really was. But it was fun to do, and I really am enjoying drawing these once again. It's been a while. So that's up to there. This week's Sketchtember. I do have other things to show you, which I'll come back to in a moment. But today's images for Sketchtember, I've gone back to plants, and while they may not be the herbs on Deadly Dot's list, they're sort of like plants growing out of cups and jugs and plant pots and other kinds of vessels like vases and so on, and just fun leaf shapes just from imagination with patterns on and so on. Again, teeny tiny spaces, so you know what I'm going to be using to colour this probably. It's going to be Ecolines. It's going to be interesting doing so many different greens and so on, because I'm not brilliant at green. But perhaps they don't have to be green, because these are not realistic, they're from imagination. But I did this morning when I woke up about 4:30. Overly warm. I'm just beginning to cool off now. Time of life, I think, is raising its head yet again. But yeah, so I drew that this morning. Other things that I've been drawing, you've seen these. This is my failed. I thought part of me thought, oh, it'd be great to make patterns, pattern paper, and stick it on, and I've got different focal points and so on, and it really hasn't worked for me. Some of the drawings I love around them, but these things in the middle, it's just a message not to do. This was one I did while I was very stressed, and I'm not really... Actually, it's worked out okay. At the time, I wasn't quite sure what I was doing and didn't like what I'd done, but as it stands, it's okay. It works. And this one was a very strange one. It started with this central kind of motif. I think this pattern is based on, I think it's Hirari, which is a Zentangle pattern. You'll notice others that have crept in, like there's a hint of, what's it, diva dance in here, and others may be similar to Zentangle patterns, but I didn't refer to them. They're just things that I use, and I use this as an inspiration for these strange flowers growing out there. But again, you can see the lovely stencil pattern on the back of my page, and I don't have any others in this sketchbook, because this is my new sketchbook. That's the one I'm working in, starting to work in, until I decide how I'm going to back the pages here. I'll just show you these because there's some pages are stenciled. See, day 18 is here. I didn't do a day 18 here, I did it in the other one. And some of them, they're sort of like words. This one's a fun one because it's a stencil that's just made of letters and symbols and numbers all stuck together. It's an Andy Skinner one from years ago. Don't even know if you can still get it. But I've never used it, but I used it in a very subtle way here just to give that texture. But I do need to go back because a couple more drawings to show you. So this is one that's a work in progress. I have lots of works in progress on the go, and I know that one of my issues and problems is that I start something and I go on to something new instead of finishing off what I've done. I do find adding colour quite tedious, and I rapidly need a break from it, you know, unless I have to keep going, and then I can get very frustrated with myself. But this one I would like to. It's typically a me kind of drawing. There are places in the background that are open spaces that I'm going to add shadow to. I'm not quite sure how yet, but I will work it out, and so on. But I'm using Ecoline brush pens and water. It's really bright colours, and this contrasts with, say, this one, which is all very muted kinds of colours. And have I got another one in here? Not sure. But yeah, things like these, which are much more muted than this one. But I really like this. I'm keeping the colours in the vermilion, mahogany, browns, ochre. These are all different ochres and burnt sienna. And I'm using a blue-green turquoise colour. I'm using two different shades of light green. I think this is spring green. This one is bronze gold. And fir green, which is others. My favourite bits of these are these bright stripes of blue in between there. They practically glow. So doing the buttons has given me ways of incorporating colour and reminding me how much I like colour as well. So that's going to be an interesting thing. And again, it's using these in a sparing way just to add these flashes of sudden colour in places. That same colour is here, but it's not glowing quite as much. I think I need to do something about this colour here to give that kind of burst of colour. But it's coming along. I'm enjoying doing it. I've got my list of colours, and actually I've got quite a few colours I'm using in this. So if you're interested, this is my list. I'm using gold ochre, burnt sienna, deep ochre, a bluish green, vermilion, reddish brown, bronze green, fir green, sepia deep, which I've used in the very dark places like here, and there's somewhere else I used it. But that's something I'm only going to be using, over here, very sparingly because it is incredibly dark. Grass green, which is the lighter coloured green, which is inside these. And I've added two more this morning because I used them on my ochre seeds. And I thought, oh, they're really nice, they'll work well, which is yellow ochre and sepia. So they're going to work really quite nicely with these. And then a couple more, I think there's a couple more drawings in here. So there's this one. This one I would like to add colour to. I say this a lot, I'd like to add colour to this, but it takes me so long to add colour, and pen drawing is what I love doing. And I think I need to, perhaps if I set myself a rule, is I do a drawing and then I colour it, and then I do another drawing. The problem is, I just love to draw. And it still takes me a good couple of hours to draw something like this. And I haven't even really put very much detail in it. If I'm going to put shadow detail in with pens, like cross-hatching or texture, it takes a lot longer, again, to do that. And I can do it because it will show through translucent colours like the Ecolines. But it's not something I do if I'm going to use, say, chalk pastels, because the pen will show through, but very mutedly, and also the pastels, because they're quite abrasive. They're soft, but they're still abrasive. As you blend them in, lift the ink up, and it becomes mucky. So it's a case of just letting things be. And the very last thing I'll show you, pop that to one side, is in this book, is the last couple of, oh no, wrong book. Oh, this one, no, this right one, is to show you just the pages I've prepared in here for drawing on. So different kinds of colours and different kinds of patterns in the background. This is actually a mandala stencil, which is fun. And I used it again and again. A big orange blob in the middle. I put too much ink on a sponge and put it down and went, oops. Didn't blend it. This one's quite interesting because I used I think this was left on the brown brush, this reddish colour, and it's just faded into the colour I wanted, which is quite sweet. There's different kinds of dots. And then I've got plenty of pages left in here to add colour to and draw on and so on. So that's my artwork this week. So I've been quite busy, even though I've been when you look at that and I compare that to something like this, and I think, yeah, Angela, what were you thinking? Yeah, going through an arty funk, perhaps, or trying things out, learning from them. But even though I've been quite stressed out this week and have had to sleep a lot and just been staring into space some days because I've become hypervigilant in a way, or overstressed, I recognise the signs, and awareness is knowing that and giving myself permission to take care of myself and do what I need to de-stress. And it's going to take a couple more days before the stress hormones of my appointments on Thursday fade away. I'm a lot better. I did sleep better last night, even though I woke up too early. So, and I didn't need to sleep yesterday afternoon. That's a good sign. So there we are. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed a look at what I've been doing artistically this week. No doubt I will continue in the week to come, the days to come. But whatever you do, enjoy the rest of your day or your evening, days until you perhaps pop back here again, and look after yourselves, be kind to yourselves, and find time to be creative, whatever creativity is for you. And until we see one another again, bye-bye for now. Bye.